Whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. And we are essentially setting out to prove that. This podcast is called Freedom by Design because you don't just stumble into freedom. Right. Freedom ultimately is what everybody wants more of. The misconception is often that adding things to life is what brings you more success, it brings you more happiness, it brings you more fulfillment. Freedom doesn't happen by accident, it's built. Welcome to Freedom by Design, where we explore what it really takes to create more freedom in your life, your business, and your relationships. We're Josh and Paula Kirpin, and this is intentional living done right. Freedom by Design, episode number 1, coming your way.
I'm super excited.
Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Are you ready? So let's tell our listeners a little bit about ourselves and then also why we decided to start this podcast.
Well, I just personally think that the podcast market has so much room. Like, there's just not nearly enough podcasts out there. Also going to be starting a podcast on sarcasm and how to deliver sarcasm effectively. But no, that's obviously not the truth. There's a million podcasts out there. Why would anybody want to listen to us? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. But it seems that people do. And, you know, I don't know that we can change the world through this podcast, and that's not exactly what we're aiming to do. But we are just wanting to get our ideas out there, engage with people in a longer format sort of a setting, basically start building relationship with people so that they can understand who we are and what we do a little bit better, and find out if you know, working with us might be something that they're interested in, but also really just to, I think, to inspire and educate, both those things, to inspire people to want more, to strive for more, to pursue more, and then really educate them on how that can actually be done. And it's not that difficult to do. It doesn't require necessarily a lot of hard work once you know how it does work. And so we'll be telling a lot of the stories from our journey and where we're at and where we're going. But it's definitely not just a motivational podcast, a rah-rah to try and get you rocking and rolling, but really like to educate the people on how things work and how they can pursue more and become more.
Change their perspective on what is possible for them to achieve and the goals that they set and the types of goals that there are, and helping them figure out what that looks like in their life, because we've been blessed with a lot in our lives, and we'll tell you, like Josh said, a little bit about our story and, you know, different situations that we have been in and things that we have tried and failed at and succeeded at, and, you know, some of those principles that we have in our relationship and within our parenting, and, you know, opportunities that we've been able to take advantage of. And I think a lot of it has to do with our mindset and how we approach different things in life. And we've had a lot of people kind of ask us about that, and our story is a bit unique. So I think there's room for that here in this space. And I'm really excited to be able to share a little bit more about how we live and how we kind of intentionally move through our lives and within our business and our family. And we're excited to share that with you.
Yeah, I think it's important to state that we don't have any knowledge or any magic wisdom that isn't available to anybody else. There's lots of other sources where you can get this information from. We're just really regular people, I would say, ordinary people living an unordinary, or, you know, I would say an extraordinary life, just because we identified what we wanted. We wanted effectively more freedom, and we pursued it. And we don't really believe that anything is impossible. Whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. And we are essentially setting out to prove that. And to some degree, we've proven it by some of the things we've done in the past, and we want to continue proving that going forward. And not just for our own good. I think that it's really important for me to try and help other people to understand how they can do that as well, have a better family, a better business, and a better life. So that is the crux of what this is all about. And I mean, this podcast is called Freedom by Design because you don't just stumble into freedom. Right. We'll talk about freedom. I think freedom ultimately is what everybody wants more of. And what does that mean exactly? I think it's freedom from constraint. The irony is, and we'll get into that later on, is constraint and commitment gives you true freedom. But I think about freedom in 4 areas: freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of purpose, and freedom of relationship. And that comes straight from Dan Sullivan. That's his idea. I'll borrow it from him, but that's how I like to think about it when I'm thinking about what I would possibly want more of. Because there have been times in my life where certainly I felt like I didn't need more money. I wanted more time, got more time, used money to get that. Now, what do you do if you don't have purpose to pursue with your time? So, all those 3 are really great. Let's say you have perfect balance in all of those. You're pursuing something that's really meaningful to you. You've got plenty of time to pursue it and lots of money. You're never worried about that. Well, if you don't have anybody to share it with, then it's worthless. So you need balance in all 4 of those. So when we talk about freedom, that's kind of what we're talking about is through the context of those 4 lenses. And then the design part is equally important. You don't just stumble into it. Like you're not just it doesn't just fall in your lap. And now opportunities can fall in your lap, but if you don't know what to say yes to and what to say, more importantly, probably what to say no to, you're not going to have freedom. You're going to be in a cycle of bondage. So that's why we named this podcast what we named it. And we feel like we have an extraordinary amount of freedom for just a pretty regular, ordinary family of 4, and want to share about how we got that and how anybody else can get that as well.
We're actually a family of 6, but
4 kids. I forget about us, I guess. Yeah, that's good.
But I do think it's interesting. We had a conversation the other day about how people get to sort of, that midlife crisis era. And, you inevitably go through life, when you're in your teens and your 20s and you're achieving goals without even knowing really that you've set them. You go to university and you get your degree and you start your career, you start your family, you start to obtain these things. And they are really wants that you have had since you were young. And then you get to a point where, you're in your 40s, 50s, and you have the things that you need to become. You feel blessed, you feel grateful, and sometimes you kind of struggle with the concept of wanting more. But I think it's really important to highlight the connection with the purpose, right? When you were saying, one of those 4 freedoms is purpose, and to be able to tie what it is that you want to having a greater purpose and greater contribution in life, I think is just so important, and a piece that a lot of people are missing. So we hope to add a little bit of value in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get deep into goal setting and the purpose of goals and why that's all important, I think, in the next episode. But let's talk about how we got here. Like what, a little bit about our history, why on earth are we here recording this podcast?
So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners that don't know your story or our story, and then I'll share a little bit about mine.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm just a regular guy, born and raised in Kenniston, Saskatchewan. That's right kind of in the middle of Saskatchewan, an hour south of Saskatoon, 7 hours north of Miles City, Montana. So always knew from a young age that I wanted to own my own business. I really wanted to control my life, and I always asked why a lot, outwardly and inwardly. Always wondered why we did things. At school, I asked why a lot. That didn't go over terribly well. I wasn't that popular with my teachers because I like to ask why. I continue to ask why and continue to find more and more answers to why, which has led me to some pretty cool places. But yeah, went to university out of high school because that was the paradigm. I mean, that was the idea of what a successful person did, right? When I was that age, if you were smart enough, got a good enough grade, you went to university. That was like the goal. Go get a career, get a job. And if you didn't have good enough marks there, then you'd go to a trade school. And if you didn't have good enough marks there, then you went out to the oil patcher that worked in the energy field. And I mean, that was like the people that were on the bottom of the ladder. Well, the irony of that whole situation is that I would say when I perceived the success of people that pursued those different paths, option A did not lead to a better life for people that pursued it necessarily. A lot of people had great success going out and working in the oil fields and making some money in a nest egg as a young person, start a business, build something, grow a family, and grow it on the back of that. Tradespeople have done incredibly well, in particular in Saskatchewan, Western Canada. through the sort of the building boom that we've had over the last 15 or 20 years since I graduated. And people that went to university and got a job, often they're still sitting in the same job, essentially the same thing for effectively the same pay that they were doing 20 years ago. Success to me is I'll borrow it right from Earl Nightingale, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So it is the pursuit of a worthy ideal, which is a goal that is of value to you, that is worthy of you. And when you get stuck sitting still, you are, by my definition and the definition of many, not successful. And you likely feel that. Most people will feel that internally when you stop pursuing things. But that's my story. So started a farm, I got my degree, worked in the corporate world for all of 1 year, maybe like 14 months. That's as long as it, no, it wasn't great. That's as long as it took me to realize that I just wasn't a good fit for that environment, and that environment wasn't a good fit for me. It was a mutually beneficial parting. Nobody was sad necessarily to see me go. Went from that, built some houses, had a painting company. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, needed to be my own boss, and stumbled into farming, sort of stumbled into farming. I was working for a friend, combining for him, and he had a good crop and was saying that it was the best crop he'd ever had. So I was crunching some numbers, asking him some questions, and had enough financial savvy to recognize that there was some margin left there, and that, there was, I know I didn't know everything. There was other costs, but there was enough, and I wanted to make a go of it. So thought, heck, let's try this farming thing. Always enjoyed running machinery, really loved the cattle side of things, but that wasn't an option then. That was BSE had just hit. Pitched the idea to you, and I think we were engaged at the time, and you were more or less on board. I'd made a business plan. That was the one class I took in university that I really got value out of. Taught me the ability to make a business plan. Pitched it to you, and you were more or less on board. Didn't have anything to lose, so it wasn't like it was we were investing a lot. It wasn't a high risk situation, but also didn't have anything to start with. So I thought, well, I'll pitch it to my dad. I'm sure he'll be on board. So I did that, and sure enough, he gave me the thumbs up, and he was ready to go and do that. He just needed to run it by Mom. So he did that, and she came back with a very enthusiastic 2 thumbs down. And that basically put an end to my dreams, or would have, but it didn't. I wanted it bad enough that I persisted through that one and figured out a way to get a loan and get started, and really started with almost nothing. I don't know how you could do it in the way that I did, that we did back then, but got through a couple of years, got our feet under us, and had a goal to get to 10,000 acres that, was written down, and that happened rather quickly. Built the farm up to some degree of success, and long story short, in the process of trying to determine, what we wanted to do on the next step in the farm, how we wanted to build the farm, how we wanted to expand and continue to grow, we came to recognize that what we did on the farm, that was our competitive advantage, that we did better than most other farms or businesses, was the way that we ran our farm, the way that we managed, the way that we built a team. So decided to lean into that strength, and by not necessarily expanding our team and our farm, recognizing that we could have minimal impact, really, no matter how much we expanded, we're still only adding a handful of people, but could have a lot of impact by teaching other farms and businesses to be able to do the things that we were good at. So that led me down this path of coaching. And as I was starting down this path of coaching, what I had recognized that I had done, or we had done in the business, was, put together the systems, develop the skills. I knew that I did not have the skills to manage people. I had to develop those skills. And I thought that was what I would coach people to do, put these systems in place and become a manager, a CEO. I didn't recognize that it was much deeper than that. And you can give people those tools, you can give them the knowledge. They will not use it consistently unless they start to see themselves differently. They need to be able to step out of the role of the producer, the technician, into the role of the owner. and not just step out of it. They actually need to live it. So that's what led us down the path that we're on now, which is definitely very much aligned, right? But it just goes one step deeper and sets the foundation to become just the new version of you. So whatever you want to do, if you want to become a business owner, you create that version of whatever you want to become, you create that version of you, and you can step into it, and then you will just naturally produce the tools and the systems that you need to become that person. So we still provide a lot of the support and assistance of the, sort of those fringe benefits, or the low hanging fruit, like how to run good meetings and all the things you need to know to run and manage a good team. But the foundation is you. And we really dive deep into that. And that is really just about the essence of success. We call our series, so it's the 100X breakthrough program, but there's multiple sort of pieces to it. The educational part is the science of success. And that is what we're teaching, is how to become successful. And it is very much a science more than an art, once you understand sort of the rules and the laws that we're all working with. So that's where we're at now. That's long story long. That's a little bit about me and where we've got to.
So I just love listening to people's stories. Stories are just so impactful and help you create a connection with somebody, and hopefully you got that with Josh here. But for us, it's the coaching piece has kind of come into play by, wanting to impact and have that purpose with more people, right? And so we've been able to set up that system through our farm, and which has helped it grow and be a really great place where people want to work and functions well when we even aren't there. And so to be able to help people understand the thinking and the mindset behind that has been really, really impactful for us, and really one of the joys that we have found and discovered through our coaching business. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Josh neglected to say that we do have 4 wonderful kids. We have been together, like he mentioned, for quite some time, over 2 decades, and we have, I think, a really great, strong relationship. And we have our 4 wonderful kids, and there has been varying degrees for me of involvement within the farm, kind of based on when I was pregnant and had the kids and such. But I grew up not very far from Josh. I didn't know him growing up, but grew up in Outlook, Saskatchewan, so not too far from Kenniston, where we have our farm now. And I grew up in a very wonderful, loving household, and university was the goal for us after we attended school. So I had wanted always to be a physical therapist and loved kind of the health and science aspect of things. Really deep down, what my university journey kind of brought me to was how I feel like my purpose on earth here is to help people and impact people positively by helping them in some way. I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. But I feel like it gets lost a lot in, the accomplishments and the letters behind your name and all the things. It gets you get kind of self-involved in that. And really what I wanted to do was turn around and I still want to do, is turn around and actually help people. And I think have that be the focus and not what I can get in return necessarily. Anyways, long story short, I went into university, I got 2 degrees, and didn't get into physical therapy. And so my backup was nursing. So I found myself in the nursing profession, which I absolutely loved, but did not love the schedule, did not love the 12-hour shifts. Our farm was an hour away. So I was commuting all the time, and it got really old really fast. I loved my coworkers, loved my patients, loved what I did. And I do feel like I was an asset to the healthcare system. But any of you working in healthcare know how tumultuous that environment is. So I kind of felt like I was suffocating a little bit, in the sense that I didn't have control over my time. And like he said, one of the freedoms that we were seeking was having time and being able to manage that. So I made a very difficult decision to step away from the nursing profession. It took me many years, and we're going to talk about how in a couple episodes, but talk about how fear can hold you back, and that barrier kind of between where you want to be and where you are, and kind of what you need to do to work through that. And it took me a while to be able to make that decision. But it was really in the best interests of my purpose, and freed me up and allowed me to do other things with our family, and then also in business as well. But yeah, moved along, and then was in a direct sales company, which really helped me grow in my leadership abilities and public speaking and training, and just, being able to lead people and again, help people and figure out what it is that they want and help them achieve those goals. very rewarding and really made me turn into a different version of myself, which I'm super grateful for. And it kind of has clarified my vision and purpose recently in being able to help coach people and work through Kaizen to be able to offer that to people to kind of figure out their mindset and their worthy ideal and help them go and achieve that. So that's kind of a little bit about me. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah. I think that
Frowning.
the misconception when people see people that are successful, they tend to see all the things that they have and the things that they do. And the misconception is often that adding things to life is what brings you more success. It brings you more happiness.
Right.
It brings you more fulfillment. We've got some really interesting things going on. You know, we own a place here in Texas. That's where we're at right now. We own, so we have a couple of different residences. We have a couple of different businesses. We are really passionate about baseball as well. There's a few things that we really spend a lot of time on, but everything that we have achieved that I consider a big part of our success is because of things that we let go of.
Right.
And stripped away. And that is the piece that most people miss. When you want to move forward into the next part of your life, you're going to have to, there's not room for everything that you currently have.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about quitting your nursing degree. That was such a pivotal point in our life. And we just simply would not be where we're at had you not made that decision. And it took a tremendous amount of courage. There was a lot of resistance to that. You invested a lot of time and energy in becoming that. Not only that, you were good at it and it served your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
To a large degree, you got to help people. You got to do a lot of the things you wanted to do. There's a lot of people around you that felt like it was crazy, basically, to give up your nursing profession. But you persisted against all of that because we, as a family, we had sat down and decided what we really wanted as a family, identified the things we needed to do, and then ultimately made those decisions and blasted through that terror barrier, that fear that comes. That's just not the case. It's generally about taking things away, really being intentional with your focus and your energy, because we've all got 24 hours in a day, but that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody has any more than that. What you decide to do with it is largely determines kind of how successful your life is going to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, being able to define, what our family vision is or where we're going as a family has enabled us to make relatively easy decisions about what to cut out. And I think that it's, important to say that that's what we have to do to be able to live the way that we live, because we can't say yes to absolutely everything. And it goes back to what aligns with our worthy ideal and our family's goals and vision, and to be able to kind of craft that. And I have a lot of people that are very intrigued when I say that we developed that as a mission and vision, because you hear that as, something that you do as a business.
We run our family like a business.
But we run our family like a business, which is maybe a little harsh to some, but I think it's the reason why it functions so well and why we are able to do the things that we do and live the way that we live, because we do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, really the difference between us and our business is you can't get fired from our family, at least until you're 18. And then you could. Like, I mean, if you're not part of our culture and part of what we're going to be, then that's, I suppose that's an option. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But you made a great point. We're just about to wrap up. I'll finish it off with this. It's a great place to cut it off, because I'm going to talk about cutting off. Decision. The root of decision is desi. That is to cut off all of our other options. Right. So when you know what you want, when you have a vision, a worthy ideal, a goal, whatever you want, something you want, and you're going towards it, all of the decisions, once you make a committed decision, it's done. All of the other decisions are made. You don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. So when you commit to, I want to be at every baseball game, or we want to go away, we want to be able to do this, what that means is we have to quit this. That decision's already made. That's right. Because you committed. Mm-hmm. So you just have to follow through. And if you don't follow through on that, then you're losing personal integrity, because you said, we're going to do this, but not because it's a little bit hard. We're not, maybe we'll rethink that. And when you start eroding your personal integrity, now you can't have a relationship with yourself, because you can't have a relationship with anybody that you don't trust. Right. And that's something like a disaster. So, but that's, I think with the the discussion on Desi. We're going to keep these episodes to about 20 minutes. So it's a nice, quick, easy listen on your drive to work or whatever it is. And we'll pick up the next one next time. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. God bless.
We appreciate you being part of Freedom by Design. If this conversation added value, help us spread the love. Take a second to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. The more intentional we become, the more freedom we create in our homes, our work, and our future. We'll see you next time. God bless.